get familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
We can include the Bootstrap framework on our web page by using the Bootstrap Content Delivery Network, or CDN. To do so, type the following in your head tag. The bootstrap.min.css file includes all the CSS components we will be using during this section of the course. We also need to include the jQuery library that will be used for some of the JavaScript plugins that we'll be using. Lastly, include the bootstrap.min.js file that contains the JavaScript plugins. And that's it. Now that we have the framework included in our web page, we can use all the CSS and JavaScript components that come built in. Bootstrap uses HTML and CSS elements that are specifically to be used with the HTML5 doc type. For this reason, it's important to specify the HTML5 doc type on the web page. As you can see, we've done that on line 1 of this sample page. It's also important to note that the Bootstrap 3 framework is a mobile-first framework. This means it is designed to be responsive to mobile devices. To ensure that your web page is rendered properly across all devices, make sure to include the following metadata in your head tag. In this meta tag, the width equals device width instructs the web page to follow the screen width of the device. The initial scale equals 1 ensures that the web page does not automatically zoom out of the page in the device's content area. This is best illustrated with an example. In this diagram, we have an example of a web page with no viewport meta tag and one with the viewport meta tag. Notice that in figure 1, the mobile browser zooms the page out, so it's compressed into the mobile device's screen. In figure 2, the website does not zoom and follows the correct mobile responsive web page structure that Bootstrap is typically used for. Next, we need to create a container that will hold the content of our web page. The container is important because it houses all the other elements of the page. It also controls how the elements inside the container will behave when the page is viewed on different devices. Generally, there are two main types of containers: fixed width containers and fluid containers, also known as full width containers. Let's take a look at an example. This sample web page uses a fixed width container. We can see that it does not scale to the full width of the browser window's content area. This page, on the other hand, uses what's known as a fluid container or full width container. It scales to the full width of the browser window's content area. In our document, let's start by creating a fixed width container. To do so, start with a div element and give it the class container. And that's it. We don't have to define any of the style rules for this container because remember, the Bootstrap CSS framework already includes that for us. So everything is predefined. We just have to give it the class container. Now let's go ahead and insert some content into our container. We'll just start with a heading. And I'll just insert some sample text. And that's it. Let's preview it in our web browser. So this is the fixed width layout. Since it's difficult to see the fixed width container because the background of the container is white and so is the page background, let's add a background color to our container. We can modify the container class by creating a style sheet and just select the container class as your selector and type in the following attributes. And after saving and refreshing our web page, we can see that we've added a background color to the container div. So now we can more clearly see that it is in fact a fixed width container. If we wanted to change this to a fluid container, we simply type in -fluid and make sure to also update the selector in your style sheet. Save the file and refresh the page. And we can see that the container now occupies the full width of the content area. So that's the difference between a fixed width and fluid width container.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.